Hello, everyone, and thank you for clicking on to this video. What you're about to see is a clip from our most recent Double Play podcast episode in which we discuss our top 5 must-draft fantasy baseball players in the MLB in 2022. We also include some sleepers on the list. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. If you do, please consider going down and listening to the full episode at the link in the description. We have it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, we'll be there. So please go check it out. Also, please consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell, and leaving a comment letting us know who some of your must-draft fantasy players are this season, as well as who have you drafted on your team already. Also, we also uploaded a clip about some of our offseason winners and losers. You can go check that out as well. But without further ado, enjoy the video.
And we'll kind of wrap that up with the winners and losers of this offseason and get into our next segment of top 5. And today we're going to do the top 5 best players to draft in your fantasy baseball league based off the ADP, the average draft position. And so we each created a list. We have our top 5. We ranked them as well. So we've got like one will be our best guy. I think we should go 5-1 on this one instead of 1-5. And do you want to just get started? We'll trade off picks here for top 5.
Yeah, sounds good. So the way we looked at it, we went online, just looked up fantasy baseball ADP, and there was a site that used averages across many platforms like FanDuel and ESPN and tons of different leagues. So it's going to be, I think, pretty close to the average of draft positions across all the platforms. And so we rank those guys. It's going to be based on value. So of course, must draft players. If you can draft Juan Soto very high, of course, you're going to want a guy like Juan Soto. But these are guys that we're not going to put everyone in the first round. I tried to go with different guys in every round, from picks closer towards the 20s to all the way down in the 130s and 140s. I'll start off with my number 5 guy. It's a first baseman from the NL West. I kind of think you know where this is going. No, I'm kidding. It's actually CJ Cron. It's not Brandon Belt. It's CJ Cron, who as of now, his average draft position is 134.6. So he's available late in drafts. And while I went with a lot of guys for standard leagues in this, I wanted to give one guy kind of a shout out for categories leagues. Because I think Cron is going to hit a lot of home runs. He had a great year last year. He really found his spot in Coors. OPS over 900, OPS plus at 130, 28 homers, 31 doubles, even walked 60 times. A very good season. It was a breakout season for Cron. He was a fantasy first baseman 1. So if you're playing in a league, I think he was a top 10 fantasy first baseman. And I think he's a great option in those categories leagues. Like I mentioned, this season, he's going behind guys like Josh Bell, Dansby Swanson, Ryan Mountcastle. I think he's a good value in the 130s. So I picked CJ Cron as my 5th must draft fantasy player.
I thought for sure you were going to go Brandon Belt because, I mean, we're in a fantasy league together, and you got Brandon Belt in one of the later rounds, and you were sitting there. We're on call. You're like, oh my God, please no one take this guy. I can't believe he fell this far.
It's just because I know that everyone knows he's my favorite player, and I've never understood why you guys don't draft him, so I have to trade for him.
Because I just don't want him. I feel like there's better options. But anyways, that's a discussion for that. If you guys want to see our fantasy teams,
we can. I think this episode's going quickly enough. Maybe we can read through them at the end of this episode.
Okay, that sounds good. And we can maybe make a little like Instagram post showing our fantasy teams as well, or TikTok or something like that.
You guys are gonna like mine way more than Ryan's.
Oh my goodness, I made some moves already. It's season I haven't started. I'm already making moves. I'm a winner of this offseason for sure. But at my number 5, I went Corey Seager because he was going 65 overall average and 41 in ESPN. And I mean, obviously fantasy defense doesn't matter. So, I mean, if you can get a Corey Seager, who's going to be an elite bat, we've seen what he can do in Globe Life from the 2021 playoffs. And I'll get to see it firsthand. I love that I'm like 20 minutes away from Globe Life. But I think at 65 overall, Seager's a great shortstop option. And I am a little ashamed to admit, in my team, I do have Corey Seager. And last season, so we're in a dynasty league, but last season I picked him in the first round. I think we have 10 players. So I had 10 and 11 back to back. So I picked him there. So I did pick him a little early, but I wanted to make sure I got him. That's like you with Brandon Belt. I would have had to trade for him. And like people ask me like, who's untouchable on your team? I'm like, just Seager. I'm not trading him. But that's my number 5. Corey Seager, I think he's a great option, great bat. He's going to hit a lot of, he can hit for power. He'll get a lot of like doubles and hit for average as well. especially for the Rangers, well, he'll be the star on that team.
We should have cross-checked lists. We shouldn't have kept it secret. I have Corey Seager on my list as well. I'll just talk about him here. He was my number 3 guy, and then you can go with your 4 and I'll go with my 4. I agree. I think Corey Seager is a fantastic option. When healthy, he's one of the best shortstops in fantasy. Last year, he only played 100 games, but he still had a 3.7 WAR season. He hit over 300, 16 homers, 22 doubles, a 145 OPS plus. StatCast loves him. If he gets he played 100 games and that was considered a hurt season. So I think if he plays over 130, plays over 140, he's going to be a great fantasy option. Averaged 2.9 fantasy points a game last season. That's alongside the likes of Luis Robert, Mookie Betts, Manny Machado, Rafael Devers. And as of right now, he's going as the 10th shortstop off the board. I'm pretty sure he's going to be better than that come the end of the season. So at the 65th pick, you can pass up on those guys early. You can pass up on Trey Turner in the first round. You can pass up on Fernando Tatis, even because he's injured. I think there's a lot of guys that you can move on from and take other positions, take pitchers early, and then bring Corey Seager in around the 6th round. I think that's a really good move. Who's your 4th guy?
My number 4 was a guy from the AL Central who just got announced that he made the opening day roster in Bobby Witt.
Wow.
Bobby Witt, he was going 100 overall average and 136 in ESPN. And I have him in our league. And I think Bobby Witt, he's a guy who will make an impact right away. I really like Bobby Witt. And I think he'll be even not just like keeper or dynasty league, which is what we're in. Even for a league that's this year, Bobby Witt's a guy that you need to go after. Bobby Witt will be very good this season.
He's going to hit it. Yeah, he's going to hit at the top of that lineup. He's going to be great. If he plays for a while, I think he can be a clear AL Rookie of the Year favorite. Bobby Witt, great pick, especially if he's going in the 100s. And if you're on ESPN, you're getting him in the 130s. I think that's a great move. And if it's a dynasty league, it's even better. My number 4 is the guy that you forgot from the Padres rotation, and that's Joe Musgrove with an average ADP of 74. He's had a big breakout in 2021, 3.18 ERA, 3.7 FIP, over 200 strikeouts. He was a high pitcher too. I think he was in the 10 to 15 range in fantasy. The Padres are going to win a lot of games. I think he's the pitcher that you want. I don't think Blake Snell is going to give you quite as many innings. I don't really trust Yu Darvish this season. So I think Musgrove is the guy that you settle on in the middle. He's going as the 25th pitcher off the board. So he's a good down the board option if you want to take hitters early and punt pitchers a little bit down the line, or he's a great option to stack on top of some high level arms. If he's your pitcher 4 or pitcher 3, I think that's tremendous value. So Joe Musgrove at ADP of 74 is my 4th guy.
My number 3 was a guy who has a little bit of versatility in terms of positions he could play, outfield and the infield. And I think it's probably only infield is second base, but I was very surprised that he was going this low.
I think I know who it is.
You want to take a guess?
Is it Ketel Marte?
It is not. It's not Ketel Marte. I've got Kike Hernandez. He was going 235.
Wow.
And I think for a guy that's versatile, I mean, he'll be a decent, at the very least, bench option. And like, he was just a guy I'm scrolling down. 235 is just insane. If you're in like a 12-man league, that's a very great late round pick, or even 10-man getting towards like the very end. That's a great option who can plug and play anywhere if guys get hurt or just off days in general. I think Kike Hernandez, I was just surprised to find him that low, and I just felt like I had to include him in this list. Yeah,
especially if you're playing in a 12 or 15 or 14-man league, you chase that versatility as well. Kike, one of the more versatile players in baseball, had a great postseason. Hopefully he continue that. He'll probably not play very much infield this season because they brought in Trevor Story, but if he's an outfielder, I think he's a good bench bat, good option to, if he starts to play a little bit more, he can be a starter in a deeper league.
He does already have that second base qualification though, because it doesn't matter about this season.
I think depending on the league, that might, I think they can get taken away midseason. I'm not completely sure. Don't quote me on that. But if it doesn't, even better. My 3rd was Corey Seager. So my 2nd guy is the highest ADP I have on this list, and that's Shane Bieber with an ADP of 25. He's my 5th best pitcher in baseball. And if you're getting him at pick 25, I think he can be a league winner, a fantasy ace. So Cy Young in 2020, we all know that. Fantastic in 2021 when healthy. Only got 16 starts, but still a 3.17 ERA, 3.03 FIP, even with an abnormally high batting average on balls in play against him. last year, his game average in fantasy was similar to Julio Urias, Kevin Gausman, and even Brandon Woodruff, who was one of the highest scoring fantasy pitchers in baseball. And this year he's going as the 8th pitcher. So if you want to take him in the early 3rd round, you want to go hitters early and then get Shane Bieber, a guy who was going easily in the 1st round last year, fantastic value. Or if you take him in the late 2nd round, I think another fantastic pick. I think he's easily a fantasy ace. And even if you don't want to take him as a fantasy ace, if he's your number 2 pitcher, that's just filthy.
For my number 2, this is a guy that you have on your team, actually. And I was surprised to find him so low. Another shortstop, Brandon Crawford, at 203rd overall and 213 in ESPN.
Yeah, I this is crazy.
This is a guy who was 3rd in MVP voting last year. 3rd in, I mean, I get it. He's aging, so I personally don't expect him to put up those great numbers again. But for 203rd overall, that's great value. Another backup type shortstop who you could throw in for injuries and off days. And I just saw great value there. 203rd overall for a potential MVP candidate type player. If the Giants put up another crazy season, he'll be a good big reason why. But 203rd overall, I think that was just too low to ignore. So I had to throw him on this list.
Yeah, I like the Brandon Crawford pick. That's why I was surprised he was available come my spot in the draft.
I was as well.
Definitely gone by then. So the fire trucks are going on in the background. But another guy that I didn't put him on my list, but he was one of the guys I kind of thought about putting on my list, and he's in the same range as Crawford, is Willy Adames, a guy who had a very similar season. And that was even with having to start the season in the Trop, which he's always struggled in. Went to Milwaukee and he was absolutely fantastic. Broke out. I think he can have an even bigger year this year because he's playing in Milwaukee the full season. He's also in that same range. I don't remember exactly what his ADP was. I'll look it up maybe later before we go up to our teams, but same range. My number 1 guy is an outfielder who had a fantastic breakout season last year. He was the 3rd highest scoring outfielder in 2021 in fantasy, and yet his ADP is at 87.6. That is Bryan Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He had tremendous success. Expected stats still back him up. xWOB in the 91st percentile. Expected batting average 94th percentile. He plays well in almost every single category. He hits for average, hits for power. He's pretty good sprint speed, good walk rate, a fantastic player. Like, no one's going to doubt he's a great player. But being the 3rd highest scoring fantasy outfielder last year, behind, I don't remember who the other guys were. I think it was Soto and Harper, and then Bryan Reynolds. And he's going in the 8th round almost at pick 87 if you're playing in a 10-man league. He's going behind guys like JD Martinez, Whit Merrifield, Jazz Chisholm, Adalberto Mondesi. I think that's fantastic value. He's the number 1 guy on my list. I'd take Bryan Reynolds in the 3rd or 4th round if that's where his ADP was. And the fact he's going at pick 87, that's fantastic value.
Yeah, my number 1 pick, I guess it's a little boring. I went for a guy. I mean, I'm going to give it away here, but he's going to miss the first month of the season. And his ADP, I was surprised to find at 35 in ESPN.
Wow.
Ronald Acuna. And I mean, he's an MVP candidate when healthy. We saw it last year.
His ADP is 35 on ESPN.
He is, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I know he's missing he'll miss the first like 3 weeks this season, but even then he still might win MVP. Even just missing only 3 weeks, he can still go out and play 120-ish games. I mean, Acuna, that's just, it's 12 overall, but to find him at 35 in ESPN was just crazy to me because he's one of the best players in the MLB. And he's definitely he'd be on my top 5 list probably. I wouldn't be for sure on that, but I would probably put Acuna in my top 5 players in the MLB right now. And to find him at 35, even though he's missing a season and coming off an ACL, with the DH, it'll help ease him back. I think he's a guy, if he falls down to the 2nd round, I'm taking him in the 2nd round in any league.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. I think he's an option at the end of the 1st round. Even a guy like Mike Trout's, I think average ADP is 10. I don't think we would ever have expected that at this age for him. So there's a lot of guys. We only mentioned 5 each. There's so many fantasy sleepers. But Ronald Acuna at pick 33 on ESPN is absolutely wild. I'm trying to find Willy Adames's average. Because because I mean, he's going behind Dansby Swanson even, and Chris Taylor. His ADP is 134.8. So I think Willy Adames, that's if I had to throw one more name on that list. There were a couple more that I had that I left off the list. If I was going first round too, I think the guy that I would have picked is Bryce Harper. I think his ADP is 8 or 9. From the season he had last year, from what we've been seeing in spring training, we could see another MVP season from Bryce. So if you're picking at 5 or 6 and Soto is off the board and Trey Turner, and I guess we're doing a dynasty league, so we really haven't drafted in a startup league this year. But I think Harper's a good pick in the first round. There's so many sleepers out there. I could be naming them all day.